All right, let's start this again. Yeah, some low notes, some low notes. And let's put some tension. There's some tension. More tension. More tension, less tension. More air is coming out. Slower air is coming out. Now no vibration, because it's too wide of an aperture there. Now we'll close the aperture a little bit. Tension. More tension, less tension. No tone, too wide of an aperture. A little bit of a tone, and lower. Add tension. Less tension. Less tension. Less tension. All the way down to no tone. The number one reason you can't play high on any brass instrument, trumpet, trombone, French horn, baritone, euphonium, tuba, cornet, flugelhorn. If you play one of those instruments and you are having trouble going upstairs into the upper register, there are quite a number of reasons why you might be having trouble, but there's a number one reason. There really is a number one reason, and I can say this because I've demonstrated a lot of the other reasons here on my channel. Various sizes of mouthpieces, great professional horns, horns that are crappy and should be made into a lamp, lower level student instruments. All these kinds of different things will add into whether or not you can climb upstairs on any brass instrument. Your own physiology, breathing and air. But let's get into the number one reason why you are having trouble trying to go upstairs. And the number one reason, drum roll, is muscle strength, lip strength, contraction, and tension. And I just demonstrated that in the balloon trick that you saw there. What did you see in the balloon trick? Well, let's go back and watch it one more time. All right, let's start this again. Yeah, some low notes, some low notes. And let's put some tension. There's some tension. More tension. More tension, less tension. More air is coming out. Slower air is coming out. Now no vibration, because it's too wide of an aperture there. Now we'll close the aperture a little bit. Tension. More tension, less tension. No tone, too wide of an aperture. A little bit of a tone, and lower. Add tension. Less tension. Less tension. Less tension. All the way down to no tone. When I had the balloon and I manipulated the opening, which is the aperture of the balloon, and I made it more taut and added more tension and contraction and made a smaller aperture, you noticed that the pitch rose. When I relaxed things here, the pitch went down. Regardless of the air, I mean, you saw the balloon was full of air and it got all the way down to almost no air. I was kind of pushing on it, but still, when there was a reduced amount of space for the air to come out, you heard that the pitch went up. When this got all relaxed and a lot looser, you heard the pitch go down. This is the number one reason you can't play high on your trumpet or any brass instrument, or maybe you can play a little bit high, but you're having some struggles. And probably a part two of this is that you're hearing erroneous advice from people that you probably trust. Band director, private teacher, famous brass players, all the way up to people that have had their nose in the book and got their DMA and their university professors. And then specialty celebrity famous trumpet players that can actually play very, very high. You're hearing some erroneous advice and you're being misinformed. These people have good intentions, but let's go through what you've been told. A lot of times you've been told, just work on your long tone, your long tones or pedal tones, work on your flexibility stuff, and make sure you are really breathing with an open throat. Don't close off the throat. Your mouth is open, your teeth are open, your jaw, a lot of warm, slow air coming out. Well, that could be good when you're playing in the staff and below the staff. I totally agree. That setup of warm, slow air and this big correct breath and your throat open and everything open is really going to jinx you when you have to go above the upper register. And so let's go back to the number one reason and the premise for this whole video. I boiled it down. In fact, I went through a lot of my videos. I don't think I had one video that just targeted this number one reason. So this can make it clear. Tension, lack of tension. Strength, lack of strength. Contraction, or a lack of contraction. So for example, my arm is not contracted. See? I'm gonna show off my muscles here. I haven't worked out in a while, but still, it's pretty loose. Look, not contracted. That's not contracted. Now if I contract it, I got some pipes, baby. I got some pipes. That's contracted and hard. That is the contraction I'm talking about here. If your lips are not well conditioned and not well strengthened, you won't be able to get the contraction you need to be able to play with power, accuracy, but more importantly, to be able to go upstairs. And why is that? Let's go back to the balloon. The balloon, you may not have been able to see it. And of course, the balloon is not a perfect example of exactly what's going on with our lips, but it's pretty close. When you saw me stretch it, I'm not wanting you to stretch your lips out, but what was happening was when I was stretching it, I was reducing the aperture of the air coming out of the balloon. By stretching it, I was actually forcing more tension from the top part of the balloon beat the bottom part. So there was more tension coming in, reducing the aperture, and you heard the pitch go higher. You have to have this ability here to be able to add the tension, keep a narrow aperture, and that comes from the muscle contraction like you saw in my arm. Well, that contraction has to happen in your top lip and your bottom lip. If you don't have the strength to make that contraction happen, you're just going to have troubles and you're not going to be able to get into the upper register. That's why you see me doing crazy stuff. If you checked up my channel, I'll pick up, in fact, I have the mouthpiece right here. I got the world's largest Bach trumpet mouthpiece. It's the Bach 1. See if I can get out of the way. And it's not necessarily important that you see the number on there. I'll turn it around just to see if it's going to come up. But just trust me, this is the world's largest Bach trumpet mouthpiece. It's the Bach 1, not 1A, not 1B, not 1C. This is a big, you can go swimming in this guy. It's very, very large. So yet I'm still able to get some higher notes on it that most people can't get on their shallow mouthpiece. So why is that? It's not that I'm special, but I'm employing a certain contraction from the top lip and the bottom lip. You can do it too. You don't have to be over 30 like I am. You don't have to be over 90 like Doc Severinsen is. And you don't have to be some famous prodigy that's 18 years old over in the Ukraine, for example. I mean, you yourself can do this, whether you're 12 years old and you've only been playing for a year or two, or whether you're a comeback player or you're an old timer or anything in between, whether you're a beginner, intermediate, advanced, pro, or superstar trumpet player. You can employ this pedagogy of upper register that I'm talking about today. And so how are you going to do that? You have to strengthen the lips, and that's where a lot of people seem to have the problem. So they're hearing, let's go back to what I mentioned at the beginning of the video. You're hearing advice from people that you trust. How many of you people are 13 or 14 and you trust your band director? Raise your hand. All of you raised your hand because you trust your band director. He or she knows a lot more than you do, and that's true. And so when they tell you to do this or when they tell you to do that, you're probably going to listen to them. How many of you have a private trumpet, trombone, tuba, or whatever teacher? Yeah, you do? Okay, so you trust them. They're telling you how to do this and you're going to do it. But is it working? It probably is not working for what we're talking about in this video today. Upper register, high range, high notes, expanding way upstairs above the staff. It may or may not be working. And then you get on YouTube and you watch very famous trumpet players and trombone players, French horn, baritone, euphonium, tuba players, cornet players, flugel players, everybody. These are famous people. Typically they're older, but they're telling you this and that about how to play higher. And well, maybe they're telling you something that's good and maybe not. For example, anybody that's telling you just to completely relax and you're going to be able to play higher is, number one, very, very misinformed, or number two, a prodigy or a natural talent. There's one person I'm thinking in particular that had some very famous interactions with a celebrity trumpet player back in the 70s. And his whole thing is no tension at all. And you have to set the mouthpiece a certain way. And if you do, you're going to get this amazing upper register. That just simply is not true. For that particular person, it is true. Let me give you another example. Maynard Ferguson. Are you aware that Maynard Ferguson was playing professional lead trumpet in a big band when he was 14 years of age? Let that sink in. Let it sink in. Here's a kid that's 14 years of age, 8th or 9th grade, and at night his parents are taking him to play lead trumpet with a pro big band in downtown Montreal. I mean, think about that. That same trumpet player later, when he got older, talked about air. In fact, he lived in India for 3 years and got into yoga breathing and all this. He talked about air being the main reason, and that everything here should be relaxed. And that when you go to play higher, you lean back and you bend your knees. No, sorry, Maynard. That's not going to work. It didn't work for Maynard's son, Bentley, either. And Maynard's son, Bentley, eventually took this guy, threw it away, and I guess he started, you know, boom, 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 boom. He started playing bass. So it didn't work for Maynard's own son, Bentley. And I don't know about his daughters if they tried to play any brass instruments, but we already know that it didn't work for them. Because do you hear about any of them playing like Maynard on any brass instrument? No. And there's no evidence that they can do that. So it worked for Maynard. And you have to think, why did it work for Maynard? Because Maynard was a natural talent. He still remains the best trumpet player of all time. No one has beaten him all around. He's just the natural. He could have, if he only done classical, we would be talking about him being so much better than Wynton, maybe a little bit better than Maurice Andre, He would kill Alan Mazzuti. Anybody that you can think of that's good, Maynard would have absolutely annihilated them if he had chose only classical. He chose commercial and jazz, and so that's how we think of him. But as a pure trumpet player, he is unbeaten. And you have to think about this. When he was 14, how many years did he practice? Hello? How many years did he practice high range stuff? Long tones, lip slurs, going high. I mean, how many years could he have practiced to gain the acumen that he did? Not many years. He's 14. When did he start practicing? He started messing around when he was, what, 8 or 9? And I mean, come on, think about it. He didn't have many years to go from 0 to 100. That's a natural talent and happened to be the best trumpet player of all time right there. That's why he was playing lead trumpet at 14 years of age, and probably outdoing people like myself now at my level. I mean, this guy is amazing. You can't listen to his advice because he is a one-of-a-kind type of individual. So whose advice are you going to listen to? Well, you're watching this video, you're going to listen to my advice because I've been around the block. You know, I'm not 19 years. You know, I'm not a kid that's just messing around in college. You know, I've been around the block. This ain't my first rodeo. And I've focused on brass pedagogy with a micro focus on trumpet and upper register. And I've done that for years. And I've looked at a lot of different people, and then I've experimented on myself, also students way back when. And I pretty much know what I'm talking about. You have to have the tension of upper and lower lip to create a narrow aperture so it will withstand all the pressurized air coming out, and it will maintain the narrowness of the hole there to allow the air to be sped up, and so you can play higher. Everything else is going to help you out. So working on your air, yes, that's going to help you. Working on your tone, of course, that's going to help you. Working on flow studies, that's going to help you. Being in good physical condition, that's going to help you. Getting the world's best trumpet. Maybe if you're rich, spend $30,000 on a Monet trumpet. That's going to help you. Maybe you're going to spend $500 on a custom mouthpiece. That's going to help you. Get with the world's greatest private teachers and celebrity trumpet teachers, yes, or trombone or whatever instrument that you play that's a brass instrument. That's going to help you. Go to Juilliard, right? Go to Berklee School of Music, go to Eastman, go to the best schools in the world, and that's going to help you. But what all those won't do, they are not a substitute, and they will not take the place of developing the muscle contraction in your embouchure and your lips, and able to contain a narrow aperture for the air to be sped up fast. The fast air. Don't let anybody fool around with messing with your head that like too much air allows you to play higher and doesn't help you to allows you to play louder or allows you to play higher, or they say fast air has nothing to do with playing higher. That's just physically and scientifically not correct. Faster air, and you can substitute another medium. What if you substituted water? Fast water can be almost extremely violent, like in a pressure washer. If you get a high-powered, heavy-duty pressure washer from Home Depot, I mean, they tell you to be careful, wear gloves, because the water comes so fast, it can inject you with water and get air and water bubbles into your bloodstream and probably could, you know, kill you. So, and if you've used a pressure washer before, you've seen the power that it has to strip off rust and paint and everything else. That water and the air, we can go back and forth. The pressurized water is coming out with such a force because the aperture of the nozzle for the pressure washer is maintained. It's not being widened because of lack of strength, and that's because we're talking about an inanimate object. That's why you have such a focus, and the water is coming out with such a fast focus. It's able to be quite devastating on whatever you use that pressure water on. The same thing with air. Let's go back to air. If you are able to contain the aperture, just like the nozzle on a pressure washer, you are able to contain fast air. Don't let anybody talk about saying more air is going to help you in the upper register. More air will not help you. I've demonstrated that you can play high without any air. Let me do it one more time. Let me point my horn away from, I got my Neumann TLM 103 and it's very sensitive, and I got to point it the other direction because I have the gain cranked up. But let me go this way. Hopefully it won't clip on us. But I'm going to let all my air out, and I'm going to play higher than probably you can play. So this is going to prove the point that all this extra more air, this yoga air and all this filling up is bogus. It's someone that's misinformed or someone that's a natural talent that really is not able to tell you how they are able to play so great themselves. It's the tension and the strength and the contraction of your embouchure and your top and bottom lip, maintaining a very small, narrow hole where the air is going to be coming out. That is how you can play higher, and that's the number one reason you're not able to climb upstairs on any brass instrument. From tuba all the way up to trumpet, to piccolo trumpet, to E-flat cornet. It is the number one reason. There is no other reason that trumps this as to why you can't play. There are other reasons, but this is the number one reason. Now let me exhaust all my air, and I'm gonna let you watch this. I'm gonna make it uncut, which means there might be some bobbling and some spias and some, it's not gonna be perfect, but I'm just gonna show you. Okay, I'm gonna take a big breath, I'm gonna let the air out, and then I'm gonna play. You'll see that I'm not taking any air in. That was a high C with no air. Let me try it again. I probably can go higher. It might not be the best sound, but it proved a point. This is the worst you could possibly play for any brass instrument with no air. No air. Yet this has to be turning on the light bulb in your head, and you have to be thinking, how in the hell could he exhaust all his air and get the high C and then get the double C? How? When my teacher tells me to suck all the air out of the room, keep your throat open, your jaw drop down low, and use a big mouthpiece, and you're going to be able to play high. They're just regurgitating maybe what their teacher told them, maybe what their DMA doctorate told them, maybe what they have heard before, or they are a natural talent that can play amazingly and they really don't know why, and they're just pulling stuff out of the air of what they heard that probably they think might be true. It's not. So go back, rewind this, and watch me play a double C with no air. No air, but just the air that's trapped naturally in my mouth. All right, now you know the number one reason you can't play high on your instrument: trumpet, trombone, French horn, baritone, euphonium, tuba, E-flat cornet, piccolo, trumpet, flugel, alto horn, whatever brass instrument that you play on. If you are having trouble trying to go upstairs, you now know the number one reason. Think back to my arm. See? Soft, squishy, squishy, right? Squishy, squishy. Now I contract it. Boom. Hard. Hard. Contracted. Contract your embouchure. Contract the lips towards the center and down with tension. Keep this pinprick of a hole, keep that narrowed and unflinching. And the air that comes out compressed and fast will allow you to skyrocket on any brass instrument. I hope you found this video of value. I've been trying to distill a lot of the stuff that I've told you over the years, and I believe that this is the most salient and poignant advice and I really feel like I'm revealing the number one reason why just about any brass player can't go higher. It's they don't have the muscle power and the contraction and the tension to keep the aperture at the smallest and the most narrow as they go higher. What happens? You don't have the contraction, the strength, your lips will slightly part. And when they slightly part, it might not be noticeable to you, but that is what's going on. And when the lips can't quite contain that air and the aperture just widens just a millimeter or just a fraction, your range is either stymied or goes down. That's just the facts. Them the facts, folks. So, if you found this video of value, please hit the like button. If you haven't subscribed, I just want to let you know I do have 1 or 2 videos on my channel that you may want to check out. I'm getting up to maybe 10. So, you know, you got 10 videos you can go through. So do subscribe. Hit that little bell thing because that's a notification when I put up new videos that you might be interested in. If you want to peruse through my website, it's trumpetsizzle.com. Trumpetsizzle.com. I have a lot of new things coming out. Practice aids. I've got some different versions of my brand new 2019 16-week updated upper register course for all brass instruments. You might want to check out my site, trumpetsizzle.com. I'm Kurt Thompson, and again, I hope that you and I interacted through this video and you got my message about what is the number one reason you're having problems going upstairs. I'll see you in the next one. The Andre Baroque, folks. I've developed it. You're going to benefit from it. Happy New Year, almost. By the way, that was Kurt Thompson, moi, on the new Sizzle Jazz flugelhorn. It's a gorgeous, beautiful horn, inside and out. And I've already kind of let me get out of the way because this camera's kind of funky. If I'm in the frame, it doesn't like to do close-ups. Hopefully you can see the Sizzle Jazz on the horn. That is the brand of this flugel. It's a beautiful horn. Beautiful, smooth valves. Hey, it's Kurt Thompson, and I wanted to give you 3 tips, maybe a bonus or 2 as well, to start the new year right. Or if you're watching this and it's in the middle of the year, maybe you're trying to start a new chapter in your life or turn over a new leaf and just begin anew, begin fresh. And this is a couple of things that you could try. So number 1, don't be intimidated. There is a psychology to playing just about any brass instrument, especially when it comes to trumpet. What makes trumpet different? Because you are going to be heard, ladies and gentlemen. You are going to be heard. I played all the brass instruments in various organizations, and when I screwed up on trombone or when I screwed up on tuba, no, not too many people cringed. You screw up on trumpet, above the staff, especially at the end of the song, everybody will hear it, everybody in the audience will hear it, and then people outside. It's a whole different ball game. So there is a psychology to playing the brass instruments, especially when you are almost out there naked and you're playing trumpet. I mean, there's a psychology to it. And so here's my first tip. You have to break through the psychological barrier, and the number 1 barrier I see for people wanting to improve their range and endurance is they don't ever try to test their limits with their range. That doesn't even seem logical, right? Someone that wants to get better, someone that wants to play higher, play with more power, play with better endurance. Yet it's like one of the number 1 things when I ask, hey, when's the last time that you tried to go for a double C? Or if it's a pro player, when's the last time that you really crunched down and tried to get that double E, that triple F sharp, that triple G? When was the last time? A lot of times either it's a nada or it's a no-go, or they're scratching their head like, well, I think I did something last month. If you are intent and serious and motivated, you should know the answer to that right away. You should say, I did that today. Kurt, I just did that yesterday. Kurt, I just did that 2 days ago. You know exactly when you did that. Not, well, I believe sometime maybe last month I went for a high C. No. So the reason people don't do that, they don't push their limits, is psychological. It's kind of intimidating to go up into the sky, and maybe you've had bad experience before and you just don't like what happens. So your number one tip right now is to break past your psychological barrier. If you're watching this before you practice, get out your horn. And of course it's flugel for me, but usually I'm on my trumpet. So go ahead and get out whatever instrument that it is. It could even be tuba. It could be euphonium. And go ahead, and I want you to go ahead and play to your limit and push your limit beyond. So if you're on euphonium and you can always get up to E flat and F, but after that it gets really, really intimidating and you don't try to push it, I want you to go for the G, euphonium players. I want you to go for the A, okay? Trumpet players, if you get above the staff and you're good with high C and D and E flat and E, but doggone it, you don't want to go for that F because you know what happens. There's some pain involved. It doesn't sound good. Maybe it doesn't come out. Or maybe you don't want to go for the F sharp, or maybe you don't want to go for that double G. Or whatever the case is. I mean, you could be higher or lower. You have to push yourself beyond your limits. And I would recommend at least once a week. Now, I don't know who you are. I don't know if you're a sixth grader, or if you're a 60-year-old professional trumpet player, bone player, or whatever. At least once a week, get a little tough and say, okay, today's the day. I haven't tried to get, let's just say, I haven't tried to get a trombone players. I haven't tried to get that way on up above where Tommy Dorsey got, and I'm getting sentimental over you. You know the one I'm talking about, way on up there. Let today be the day. You're in your own practice room. No one's watching you. Break that psychological barrier and try it, okay? Work your way up and just try to push yourself beyond that limit. That is tip number one. Everybody can do that. I promise you, if you have 52 weeks coming up in 2020, that's 52 times for the year of 2020, you could try to push beyond your limits. What do you think is going to happen after pushing beyond your limits 52 times? My guess is you're going to improve. My guess is that the limit that you push through will be the old limits because you'll be comfortable in that particular range. It's going to be an overall winner. So that's tip number one. Tip number two, articulation. Articulation. Try adding in 5 or 10 minutes, at least every other day, of some extra articulation. Quarter note equals 120. Bum, bum, ba-dum, bum, bum. That's about 120, right? So, if you can't do that, put down where you're at. Are you at 116? Are you at 108? Are you at 92? Or if you're a whiz at classical music and maybe even an advanced or pro player, maybe you're way beyond 120, maybe you can single tongue at 132 or 138. Write that down and try to best yourself every other day on single tongue. Add in K tongue, double tongue, reverse double tongue. Now you guys know what that is, right? Add in kata kata kata, kata 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 kata, right? Kata 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 kata. Add in that. How about your triple tongues? Ta-ta-ka, ta-ta-ka-ta, ta-ka-ta, ta-ka-ta-ta. How about ka-ta-ta, 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 ka-ta-ta? That's like your reverse triple tongue. Add in articulation. My point is add in articulation. The worst offenders happen to be the professional jazz trumpet players. I've known a lot of you through my lifetime. Maybe even Sam Noto, a guy I played with a long, long time ago at the Royal York Hotel in Toronto. Maybe he might even agree to this, that the professional jazz trumpet player is lacking sometimes when it comes to articulation. I mean, really buckling down and working on your articulation. Why would that be? Well, come on, enjoy spring, Brownie speaks, and then all the other jazz standards, you know, all the things you are, and on and on and on, Green Dolphin Street, you're not really doing lots of triple tongue and double tongue, you know, and those type of songs for the jazz trumpeter. I'm here to tell you, jazz trumpeters and everybody else, if you would just add in some articulation, at least 5 or 10 minutes every other day, by the end of 2020 or whatever year you're watching this video, give yourself a year, you're going to be overjoyed as to what happens with your playing. You're just going to have more command of your instrument. I believe you're going to have an improved sound, a more crystal clear pinpointed attack, and who knows, you might even increase your upper register just a little bit. At the very least, you're going to have just a lot more colors and a lot more pops when you go to play your instrument, especially you pro jazz players. You're going to be able to put a little bit more pops and a little bit more sizzle on those different notes that you want to get. So that's my tip number 2. Add in 5 to 10 minutes of articulation in addition to what you already do every other day, at least 5 or 10 minutes every other day. Now for you classical only players, maybe you can dilute that down because maybe you already spend an hour on what I'm just talking about now, and I'm not telling people to spend an hour on it, but if you're a classical person and that's all you do, then you have to substitute something else. Maybe for you have to add in 5 or 10 minutes of lip trills, for example, or 5 or 10 minutes of some other part of the instrument that you tend to put on the back burner. Tip number 3, at least once a week, turn one of your practice days into piano or pianissimo for everything. You're not going to be doing a concert, you're not going to be going to a jam. You want this day to be a day where you don't have any other distractions and you can just play your normal stuff, whether you practice an hour a day or 3 hours a day. Turn everything into piano or pianissimo. That means when you're doing your range study and you're supposed to be powering out, I want you to go even softer because it's going to be your pianissimo day. Now, too bad you couldn't be in the room with me because that was probably 2 Ps, maybe almost 3 Ps for a high concert B flat, a high C. So make one day per week. That's going to give you 52 times between now and the end of 2020, or whatever year you're watching this, 52 times of really helping your chops vibrate better, better flexibility, and getting that response coming in. You need that. We brass players need that response to happen. I promise you, if you do this 52 times over the next year, you are going to want to come shake my hand. Thank you, Kurt. Wow. Thank you. And you can do it and you're not adding any extra time to your practice regimen, right? You are taking what you normally would already do. You're already going to practice this particular set, for example, on a Saturday. Maybe you're practicing 2 hours on a Saturday and you don't have anything else going on. So I'm not asking you to add anything. You already are practicing. I'm saying I want you to turn down the volume. Turn it all the way down to piano. You can barely hear me. You're on piano, maybe pianissimo. You're going to keep your practice about that soft all the time, very soft. Okay, and then the next day you can turn it back up to normal, how you would normally practice. So there you have 3 tips. What are they? They are all things that you can do, and you don't need to buy anything. You don't need to find another teacher for this, and it's just easy. What was the first one? Do you remember? It's about this, about the brain. Don't be intimidated by your instrument. Trombone players, I'm getting sentimental over you. Don't be scared to get up to that super duper way, way above the staff. Don't be scared. I know you probably can't play that note, but I want you to have the psychological mindset to work your way up there. At least break through those barriers. Don't be intimidated by those notes. Same goes for all other brass instruments. What was tip number 2? Articulation. Add in 5 or 10 minutes of articulation at least every other day. At least every other day. I promise you, by the end of the year, you are going to thank me. You're going to be a much better player. You're going to feel better. Probably will have increased your range a little bit. You're just going to be an overall better player. Especially the people who tend to really need this, the pro jazz trumpet player. Pro jazz trombone players might need it, but they tend to do a lot of articulation with their doodle tongue. Pro trombone players tend to have a lot more action going on with their articulation than your typical pro jazz trumpet players. So you guys need to add in this tip number 2, your articulation, 5 to 10 minutes. Get out the old Arben's book, or if you don't have a book, you could just work on scales, right? On and on and on. Add an extra 5 or 10 minutes of that every day. What was that 3rd tip? I said to turn down the volume where you really can't be heard that much, down to piano, pianissimo, play softly. Play softly. I'm trying to be exaggerated here, but I want you to play softly 1 day per week. You don't have to change anything about your practice except for this, turn down the volume. Play everything normal, whether you do jazz standards or whether you're working on orchestral excerpts, band music, whatever the case is, your scales and your warm-up and your long tones and sight reading and on and on and on. But I want you to turn down the volume all the way down to P or pianissimo, 2 Ps. Maybe you can get it down to pianissimo. That's triple pianissimo for you guys who don't understand my version of Italian. You start your year with those 3 tips, I'm just going to guarantee and bet you are going to be a better brass musician. And I don't care if I'm looking at somebody who's 60 years old and has been a pro player for 40 years, or if I'm looking at somebody who's 15 years old and still just trying to figure out their instrument. The 3 tips that I told you right now are going to help you out. Take it from me, Kurt Thompson, guaranteed. Now how about a bonus tip? All right. This is a little bit of personal information about me, but you might be wondering why I'm dressed like this. Well, I just got back from doing a wedding reception. And yeah, you're thinking, wow, wedding reception at the end of December. Why? Don't ask me why. I don't know. People like to get married at all kinds of interesting times. I guess now is not a bad time to get married, because if you think about it, going forward for your anniversaries, a lot of times you'll have off for your job, whatever, or school. I mean, you're going to have off or kind of around this time, the holidays. And then if you're married, you could celebrate your anniversary kind of more easy, right? So I guess it's not a bad time. Now, I could still be at that wedding reception right now, drinking, getting my drunk on, and a bunch of other stuff, but I'm not. What am I doing? I'm having a little bit of this. I don't know if you can see in there without me spilling it. Can you see? Yeah. A little bit of coffee, and what am I having here? Protein shake. Seems a little bit cliche, doesn't it? Well, it was just several years ago that I wouldn't be home right now. I'd still either be at the gig or at the reception, or if that didn't last long, out to a bar, out to somebody's house, somewhere to continue drinking. And if not, if there was no gig, I probably would have a steel reserve
something hardcore. Hurricane, Steel Reserve in this hand, a big 40. And I wouldn't have a protein shake or coffee. I'd be waiting for the Domino's guy to deliver a pizza. And so I had developed some pretty bad habits. Being a professional musician, a full-time professional musician, now this is a topic for another conversation, but let's just make it clear. Being a full-time professional musician does not mean you work at Best Buy during the day and then you play a jam or something at night. It doesn't mean that you sit at home and mess around while your wife is a realtor bringing in the money, or your wife is a teacher or an insurance agent. That is not a full, you have no skin in the game because you got it on Easy Street. I'm talking about you full-time musicians where everything depends on you playing this instrument or another one close to it, and you don't play this, you don't eat. Okay, there's no Easy Street. You haven't gotten married, or you haven't the luxury of a girlfriend that's a realtor, you know, and she's out actually making, or it could be a he if you're a female player, but I'm just going to use he's for right now. You're a he and she's out there selling houses and you're on Easy Street. That's not what I'm talking about. When you are a full-time musician, you get as many gigs as you can. Come hell or high water, they could be good ones, they could be bad ones. The number one thing that happens, I will tell you, if you're a real pro player, and also I'm not talking about university and college trumpet instructors and brass instructors, you are not a full-time pro player, you're a teacher who happens to maybe play a couple of gigs. You have somebody holding your hand with that paycheck. That doesn't count. I'm talking about a real pro player that doesn't play, doesn't eat. There's a huge difference in that world. And what happens when you are a pro player, you tend to want to get all your compensation. What is your compensation? It's going to be usually cash or a check at the gig. It's going to be a dinner voucher or some kind of free food. And it's going to be almost always alcohol and drink tokens that you're going to get, or accommodate, or a voucher or something like that. As a result, you can find yourself, if you've been a pro musician like I have a very long time, you can find yourself really having to develop some bad habits. Being on lots of gigs where you get your cash, you get your money, you get your free dinner or lunch or whatever it is, but damn it, you're going to take advantage of that alcohol because it's part of your compensation. You're going to drink those 4 or 5 beers, or those 4 or 5 or 6 shots. They might even give you more. A lot of times they give the band more, or that bottle of champagne. So it can be a pretty overwhelming and insidious bad habit that develops as the result of being a full-time pro player that isn't able to depend on anybody else for their income. When you're on the bandstand and you're in between sets, it's not likely you're going to be offered a protein shake. Yeah, maybe you can get coffee, but most players that I played with are going to grab a cup of coffee at midnight on that 10 or 15 minute break in the set. They're going to get a beer or wine or something like that. And you're not going to get a protein shake. You're going to get some kind of chicken wings, fried mushrooms, fried cheese sticks, or something like that. So it's insidious. If you're a full-time pro player, you're going to have developed these bad habits, and sometimes it's just like an 800-pound gorilla that's tough to get off your back. A couple of years back, I made these changes. It was very tough, and now I'm home early. I could still be out partying up and going crazy, but I'm home early and I'm having a protein shake, which I'm getting ready to indulge in right when I shut this camera off. And I got a little bit of coffee left. So that's kind of like my bonus tip for you guys. I feel like my playing has improved over the last couple of years just by doing that. But I've even gotten my health a little bit better. My health is a little bit better. Blood pressure's down, stronger, slimmer. All by getting rid of some of those old bad habits that developed being a pro musician for so long. The kind of pro musician I just gave a definition to. You don't have a day job, you don't have a teaching gig during the day, and you don't have a wife or husband who's an insurance or realtor bringing home the bacon so you can just do whatever. You have to get out there and play. That's how I define a 100% full-time pro musician. Anyway, that was my bonus tip. Well, I'm going to be taking a detour off my normal status quo of playing and making videos and stuff, and I'm going to really be getting into jazz trumpet, and I'll tell you more about that soon. So Happy New Year 2020, Kurt Thompson. Take a visit to my site, trumpetsizzle.com. You could hit the like button, you could leave a comment below, and you could subscribe. See you in the next one. Bye-bye.
Now, Kurt, you can do better than that. Hit it one more time, baby. That's what I'm talking about. Now I'm happy. How to turn any trumpet mouthpiece into a screamer. You'd like to know that, wouldn't you? Well, a couple of key points. In order to do this, you have to have uneven or lopsided asymmetric lips. That means one lip is a little bit larger, a little bit thicker, a little bit wider than the other. So if you look at my lips, let me get into the camera a little bit closer. Did you notice that the bottom lip is substantially larger? Not just a little bit. It is, let me see if I can pooch my lips out. It's substantially larger than the top lip. As a result, there's some inequalities happening there when you put it into a typical mouthpiece. Now look at that mouthpiece is uniformly round and everything about it is symmetrical. There's nothing uneven. I can get it real close. You don't see anything too asymmetrical about it, right? What happens when your lips are asymmetrical, not symmetrical? Let me try to break it down in case maybe you're in Italy watching this. Your lips are uneven. They are not the same length, width, thickness. They're not equal in size. You have a problem. There's a dilemma. Now some of you can overcome it, some of you can't. But even if you've overcome it, you can still sweeten the deal, baby, with what I'm going to tell you today and how to turn any trumpet mouthpiece into a screamer. Now let's look at this mouthpiece real carefully. I want to see if it's an old faded mouthpiece, and I want to see if you can figure out what kind of mouthpiece it is. Oh, there we go. Let me move it up closer to the camera here. You saw it was one of my least favorite mouthpieces, right? The Bach 7C. In fact, you probably have one. Whether you play on it or not, that's a different story, but you probably have one because the horn that you got when you were first starting was a 7C, or had a 7C with it. Or maybe you've just always played on a 7C and didn't know any better. Or maybe you have a band director or a private instructor who just slams their fist down and says you need to play on a 7C. So I want you to get all that garbage out of your head. That's all bunk. That's all garbage. You got to get that out of your head. That's number one. You should be playing on what mouthpiece, folks? No, not a 5C. Again, you should be playing on what kind of mouthpiece, folks? No, not a 3C. You guys aren't watching my channel very much, are you? Okay, let me hold your hand a little bit. You should be playing on a Bach 3E. 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 3 like Edward. 3E. 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 That's my go-to trumpet mouthpiece. If you have not invested a lot of money and time on getting a custom mouthpiece made for you, or you haven't been on a mouthpiece quest, you don't necessarily have to have a custom mouthpiece made for you, but maybe you're going to try several custom type mouthpieces that aren't the typical norm. For example, maybe Parduba, for example, isn't your typical mouthpiece. A Schilke 13A4A isn't your typical mouthpiece. I mean, people play it in marching band and lead, but it's not like your Bach 7C. So unless you have been on a mouthpiece quest and have tried all kinds of mouthpieces and found one that's just perfect for you, my go-to mouthpiece is the Bach 3E. It just tends to fix what ails you. You can play a little lead on it, you can use it for marching band, you can definitely play it in brass quintet, you can play it in a wind ensemble, orchestra, pep band. It just has a lot of uses, solo and ensemble. It really does have a lot of uses that you back off on a little bit, open up your aperture slightly, and you get a darker, bigger sound. You roll it a little bit, you push that air and fire it up, and you get that brighter sound for jazz. It just is a great all-around mouthpiece. 3E. But you saw that I don't have my favorite mouthpiece, my go-to mouthpiece, the 3E. I got the one I don't like, the Bach 7C. And I got the Bach 7C to prove a point with this video. Now you're already saying, I can hear you right now. I can hear you. You know, I'm psychic and I also am omniscient, and I can hear a lot of people saying, Kurt, get on with the freaking video. I want to know how to make my mouthpiece into a screamer. Okay. First, you're going to need to pick up some epoxy that looks like this. They have all kinds of epoxy that you can get at your local hardware store, at the big box stores like Home Depot and Lowe's, even grocery stores. This one here I happened to pick up at Harbor Freight. It's not expensive, $4 or $5. So you want to get a tube of this. Now they have liquid epoxy and they have all kinds of different epoxy. This one has the consistency of Play-Doh, pretty much, until you start mixing it together, and then it can harden like steel. I've actually used this with emergency plumbing situations. I remember a leak under the sink in a rental house I used to own when I lived in Washington State. Middle of the night, had to go there and stop this leak. I took something similar to this, broke it open, wadded it up, made a little snake of a ring with this, put it around there and kept holding it, and this works even while wet. This stuff hardened, it stopped the leak until down to just a couple of drops, and I was able to sleep and call a plumber the next day. This stuff is pretty miraculous. So you might be thinking, well, Kurt, what has this got to do with me and becoming a screamer on my ordinary 7C mouthpiece, or whatever mouthpiece that you play? Because this is going to help even the score. It's going to help make your playing and your lips more symmetrical while turning your mouthpiece into an asymmetric mouthpiece. Let me say that again. Your lips will go into the mouthpiece more symmetrical when you've made your mouthpiece asymmetrical. You're going to make your mouthpiece a little uneven to balance out the unevenness that's in your lips. What will the end result look like? What you saw inside my mouthpiece is epoxy. Here's my custom Bob Reeves mouthpiece with the Neil Sanders rim on it. Still beautiful on the inside. Here's the one I've kind of effed up a little bit. Same deal, it's the same mouthpiece. Bob Reeves cut off the Neil Sanders 17S, put that top on this bottom. But you can see I've gone to work and suffered some abuse. But this mouthpiece here is a killer. It allows me to get some meat on the bone with triple G's and even a little bit above. It's pretty miraculous. So let me put both of them together. What this has that this one does not is a little bit of balancing for my top lip, which is a little bit thinner and not as big as the bottom lip. You wouldn't think it would make that much of a difference, but when you put both lips in, now both lips go in quite equally compared to before with this one, where more of the bottom lip will get shoved in, even if I don't want it to. If that is just going to happen. So we're now creating a equal balance in the embouchure and a more equal vibration. And you're going to bring all that strength and power, and it's all going to sync up, and you are going to get higher notes. You're going to play louder. You're going to have more brilliance, and you're going to be more powerful when you do this. There are some negatives. I've noticed sometimes that the intonation here can be a little bit squirrely, especially the lower that you go. If I'm going to be playing something that does have quite a lot of stuff in the lower part of the staff or below the staff, I'll use this one. Or more lately, I've been using the big Bach 1. I don't know if you've noticed that. I have been pulling out the Bach 1, the largest of all Bach mouthpieces, more often than not. I really get a great sound in the middle to lower register on the Bach 1. So, but I'll use this one if I have to play something that goes all over the horn, the tessitura of the horn, but it does get down low. I will have to play this one just so I can be more in tune and the notes are slotting a little bit better. Another negative, should you do this, you will notice your accuracy goes out the window a little bit. We'll say maybe 10%. You'll notice the slotting is not near as good. Okay? You just have to there's the pros and cons. So you want to bury the band, you're probably going to do this. You want sizzle and fire and electricity and thunderbolts shooting out of your horn, you're going to probably want to do this. You want to be the man or the lady in your band. Yes, you're going to probably want to do this. Now, if you're going to play an orchestra or anything really legit, orchestra, concert band, wind ensemble, brass quintet, for the most part, there'd be a couple of pieces you could use this type of mouthpiece for. Trumpet choir, brass choir, maybe even solos. Like I've done a lot of these at wedding receptions. You're not going to want to pull this out. You do sacrifice a little bit of tone quality as well. Your tone will not be as good. Once you have turned your mouthpiece into a screamer, it will not be as good as before. It'll be a little bit less. To throw a percentage, how about 5 or 10%? You're probably pushing 10%. Your tone quality will be about 10% less. But who's really going to notice when you're in big band or jazz band or a rock band or a fusion band or some commercial thing, and you're powering out D's, E's, F's, double G's, and A's? No one will notice the difference in the tone, and you won't either. because it's going to come out as pure power and electricity to anybody in the audience. When you take it down into the staff, that's when people will know. You will know it too. Other people will notice. If you're playing this, I notice it myself. Now, how do we do this? So hopefully that you found the epoxy, and maybe you pause this video, or you've already watched this video, but now you're coming back to it for the how-tos and how to put this all together. So let me open this baby up. Let me read the warning here. It does have a warning, and yours probably does too. If you swallow this, I mean, if you took a bite of this and swallowed it, you might die or get very, very sick. If you messed around with this and then didn't wash your hands and then you had to itch your eye, you're going to be sorry. You're probably going to have some eye problems. How bad, I don't know, but it's not going to be good. I would just not want to leave this on your skin while it's in its moist, non-hardened state. Once it's hard, in my opinion, you're good to go. I mean, I've been using this in this mouthpiece. I've been using the epoxy in my mouthpiece for about almost 10 years. And I go to the doctor at a regular basis. I don't have any problems. My lips haven't fallen off. Everything's normal. When I do the whole health spectrum panel, I guess they call it like a panel. So I mean, everything's tested, blood and everything, and I'm good to go. Once it's hard, you're good. Once it's in its moist state where it hasn't hardened, that's where you want to be careful. You don't want to be messing around on it too much until it actually turns hard. I've got it out of the package. It does have a pretty bad smell to it. So like I said, it looks like Play-Doh. So I'm going to pull a little bit out. Not like that much. Now sometimes you'll get an epoxy and it'll have a gray color on the outside, and then there'll be another part that's a whiter or a lighter tan color, two different colors, and that's fine too. And then when you mix them together, they become one color. This one, I guess, works once it hits air. So I can already feel it's getting tacky now that it's hit air. I can feel like there's a chemical reaction happening. What you want to do is get this into about the size of a little pea. Like that. And then it's just like when you were playing with Play-Doh as a kid, right? Okay, now here's my little pea-size epoxy. Here's the mouthpiece. I'm going to put it in. Now it's hard to do this without really looking at it, but I'm going to put it in on the mouthpiece here. And put it on the edge. Now I have to do this kind of on my own to actually look at it. Just so you know, I had to take a little bit of piece off of that. It was too much. All right, let me let you take a look at it now, and I'm still going to get a little bit more out of near the hole, the throat. Hopefully you can see what's going on there. Now notice it goes down a little bit too far near the hole or the throat. I'm going to try to remove that out with a pen now. Or the pen cap. And if you're more high-tech, you can probably figure it out. I'm just going to take this and scoop a little bit out. And I'll take a look. You can see that I've got it further away from the hole. Now I'm going to go ahead and let this dry, so I'm going to have to come back, and after this is dried and hardened up a little bit, I'll come back later and we'll proceed further with turning your trumpet mouthpiece into a screamer. Alright, I am back. It's been about 4 hours, and I would say this is probably somewhere around 60 or 65% cured, meaning it's not quite there. It needs to likely go a good 10, 12 hours, maybe even up to 20 hours, like a full day, and let it totally cure and harden. But just to go ahead and finish up this tutorial, and I got to move on to other projects, I want to come in and go ahead and give my final thoughts on this, let you see how it looked. You can see that the darker gray is now turned a little bit lighter, and I suspect this will become even lighter than what you see here. I would like to leave you with a couple of thoughts for consideration. And then after that, I'm going to leave you with a final word, and my final word will be me playing on the new improved Bach 7C Screamer trumpet mouthpiece. A couple of thoughts. You're likely going to have to sand this down a little bit. You have to put this in at a certain amount because you have to have room to work with. In other words, you can't start off with too small amount, because then what are you going to do? If it's not enough, then you're going to have to go back and repeat this whole damn process all over again, and it's one big long waiting game. So let me save you the time. Just put in a little bit more like you saw me do in the beginning, and then you're going to play on it. Now, a con or a negative to turning your mouthpiece into a screamer is the potential destruction of your existing mouthpiece. Not a total destruction, because of course it's going to be a screamer mouthpiece. But let me give you the before and after of my mouthpieces. These are identical mouthpieces. Bob Reeves cut them up for me. They have the Neil Sander 17S top, and then the Bob Reeves 42SV bottoms. That's 42, S like Sam, V like Victor, and I'll show you that right now. You might be thinking to yourself, wow, Kurt, one of your mouthpieces is really effed up. The other one still looks somewhat like new. What happened? Well, exactly what I alluded to. When you turn your mouthpiece into a screamer, you're going to have to do some fine-tuning and adjustments. What you saw in the 7C is probably a little too much for most folks. You're going to have to shave that down a little bit with some super duper fine sandpaper. I mean, it's got to be extra fine, or extra fine steel wool. And what you're going to do is you're going to rub on the epoxy, get some of it off, make sure you wash it off with water, rinse off your lips, don't swallow any, and then play on it. And you're going to keep going back and forth until you find that magical sweet spot. That sweet spot when you play and bam! If you're a high C player, now you're a high E or a high F player. I shite you not. It will be that significant. If you're a pimply faced, gangly little 14-year-old 9th grade girl or boy, and all you could muster up was a G right above the staff, and you're shaking and veins are popping out of your head, you will be able to nail the you-know-what out of a high C after you've turned your mouthpiece into a screamer. But it comes at some destruction of your mouthpiece. You can see that there's plenty of scratches on there. I pretty much took the hide off of the mouthpiece, and the reason that happened is because all the sanding. You take some sandpaper and you keep messing around in there. Well, unfortunately, that sandpaper is hitting other parts of the mouthpiece. Now, my latest thing that I did when I put some finishing touches on this about 1.5 years ago is I got one of those nail salon Dremel type drills. It's not a Dremel, but it's, if you're a female, you've been into a nail salon, you've seen that they use this little tool. Kind of looks like a handheld straight drill. like a Dremel, and they use it to smooth out your toes and your nails and, you know, smooth them down, whatever. Well, I got one of those off of Amazon and put some fine abrasive wheel on it, and just and did a little bit of that, and it got it even more close to what I wanted. But it does come at a cost. I mean, scratched it up and took off some of the finish. The whole moral of the story about the destruction is you're not going to want to even think about turning your $400 Monet gold Prana mouthpiece into a screamer unless you're absolutely rich and you don't mind having a $400 mouthpiece end up looking like this. When it used to look this good. So if you got the big bucks and the cha-ching, and you don't mind taking a mouthpiece that's maybe expensive and chomping it up a little bit because you want to get an extra 3 notes in your range, then by all means, you've been warned, and if you're okay with it, good. Another thing, I am a teacher. I've taught so many students. There are a couple little shortcuts, but in reality, there's no big shortcut to success. You're gonna have to still practice. You're gonna still have to take lessons. You're gonna still have to use these and listen to lots of music, lots of players. You're not just gonna be able to turn your mouthpiece into a screamer and have life be easy street for the next 80 years or however long you're going to live. You're going to have to pay your dues. You're going to have to put in the time for practice. You need to be spending time with somebody who knows how to teach this instrument and somebody who knows how to play, preferably who can do both. I would love to have you work with me. I have a proven system. I have several proven systems, especially for upper register and endurance. This is a cool little gimmick, turning your mouthpiece into a screamer. It does work. And I've already mentioned some of the cons. You might notice some intonation problems, some accuracy problems, a little bit of squirreliness. There is some destruction to your mouthpiece. But let me tell you, ladies and gentlemen, there is nothing more satisfying than pulling up your horn and just knocking the you-know-what out of a high F or a double G when just the night before when you went to sleep, you couldn't even get a high D out. I mean, veins were bulging, your face turned beet red just to get a high C or high D out. And with this little gimmick, you can hit out and nail an F, a double G. You can't beat that feeling. It is an amazing feeling to feel that potent, that strong, that powerful, that much in control of your destination on this instrument. And I want to plug my new 2019 revised upper register course. If you want long-lasting success on this instrument, you got to take that course. I say it, but a ton of other successful graduates also say it. This is not bull. This is the real deal, the holy grail, the #1 rated course for brass players to improve their upper register and their endurance. TrumpetSizzle.com is where you can find a lot of my stuff. By the way, you went through this whole video, maybe you stopped and paused and actually now you're looking down at your mouthpiece and you're getting ready to try it. Did you find some value here? If you did, well, I appreciate a nice little like. Maybe leave a comment. Did it work out for you? Let others know. Did you have a glitch or a problem? Let others know. Do you still have questions about this process and need my help? Leave a comment and maybe we can get involved in a lesson or two and I'll be glad to work with you. Alright, so it's been my pleasure showing you this amazing trumpet tip to increase your range almost overnight. It really has been my pleasure. And remember, we talked about taking your plain old vanilla trumpet mouthpiece and turning it into a screamer. You go to bed, a high C player. You wake up the next day and you got Fs all day long. That's Fs above high C or even double Gs. I mean, you can't even put a price tag on that. I mean, it's just an amazing feeling to feel that powerful and that in control of your destiny on this instrument. I'll leave you with a final word, and my final word won't be coming from my words. My final words will be spoken through my instrument, showcasing my 7C mouthpiece that has been turned into a screamer. It's a brand new spanking 3E mouthpiece. Most of you watching this video are looking at your trumpet or pulling their mouthpiece out and you're going, holy crap, he's right. I have one of these guys. And I don't know if you could actually see that, so we'll try to zoom in a little bit. The 7C. This is the all-time favorite mouthpiece that's in the case of a typical beginner intermediate. I've even seen it in a box Stradivarius, brand new case, a 7C. For some reason, someone somewhere along the line decided that 7C was the best all-around mouthpiece for everybody. And then you could branch out depending on what you wanted to do, jazz or rock or symphony or whatever, and get different mouthpieces better suited. I'm here to tell you that the 7C is not the mouthpiece for you. And it may be a specialized mouthpiece for a few. So how does that translate to you? That what you need to know is there is a much better all-around mouthpiece, and it is not the 7C. The 7C is too deep, too narrow, and has a nice sharp rim to bite your lips as soon as you try to go to the top of the staff. It happens to me, and I got powerful chops, and it happens to 4th and 5th graders who have no chops and they're just starting the horn. Why start on an instrument when you got your hand tied behind your back with the Bach 7C? Don't do it. I consider this more of a specialized mouthpiece. Maybe if I wanted to audition for fourth trumpet for the Chicago Symphony, I get off my current custom Bob Reeves, and I probably would use something like this, a 7C, maybe a 3C or a 5C, somewhere in this general vicinity, for get a real crisp, clear attack down in the low register. So, but for everybody else, you don't need to start on a 7C. Instead, there is a better solution, the 3E. Now the 3E is a little bit wider than the 7C, and I can visibly see the difference. I don't know if you can. This is the 3E. This is the 7C. And you can see that's a brand new mouthpiece. Look how beautiful that is. So this is a review of the Bach 3E trumpet mouthpiece versus the Bach 7C trumpet mouthpiece, with the Bach 3E mouthpiece being the overall winner for the best overall mouthpiece for the money that just about anybody anywhere on the planet can get. If you have a choice and your horn came with no mouthpiece, you must get this one if you want to succeed in today's world. If your horn came with the Bach 7C, you really should make every effort that you can to acquire the Bach 3E. It's an overall much better mouthpiece, and I'm going to tell you some reasons why. Number one, it's slightly wider. Slightly wider, so you're going to have more surface of the lips vibrating. You're going to have better flexibility. It's a little bit more shallow, and the corners or the edge of the mouthpiece is a little bit more rounded, so you're not going to cut up your lips. You're not going to experience the pain that you would on the Bach 7C. Because of the shallowness of the 3E, you're not going to fall into it like you would on the 7C. And that's going to give you half a chance to be able to play some of the beginning and intermediate music that you want to try to play as either a student in 4th, 5th, 6th, or 7th grade, or an adult who's picking up the horn, or a comeback player who is picking up the horn, the trumpet, after so many years, and they see their trusty old 7C in the case. Please get rid of that. You know, I don't care how good you got on this, but please get rid of it and get the Bach 3E. It's just an overall hands down winner. Even if you had a jazz band at your school, or even if you're an adult and you have a local jazz band in the community, you could take this and potentially play most of the parts. You could even play a decent amount of lead on this horn, on this mouthpiece. The 7C is going to F you up bad if you try to take it and play lead. And I'm talking about lower level lead stuff like Woodchopper's Ball and 1 O'Clock Jump, In the Mood, Little Brown Jug. The 7C is going to make your world tough. The Bach 3E, it's going to be a breeze. So the Bach 3E is the overall winner. I've reviewed both mouthpieces. Please get rid of the Bach 7C. Unless you are an advanced or professional player that knows they need a 7C for playing typically a lower part in the symphony or orchestra or wind ensemble or brass band that you are in. Then if you need a mouthpiece like this to play a lower part, then by all means go ahead and get it. Otherwise, don't accept the Bach 7C mouthpiece as a status quo of what you should be playing. Everyone should now look in their case, and if you don't have a Bach 3E, please go ahead and get one. I have a link right below. And I'm going to go ahead and play just for you. Now, I have my custom Bob Reeves mouthpiece. This is the one that I've spent probably over $300 on in a whole afternoon in Valencia, California with Bob Reeves, John Schnell. Those guys spent a considerable 2-3 hours, up to 3 hours with me, messing around, cutting my other mouthpiece off, cutting off the rim, a whole bunch of stuff I'm not going to go into, but this is my perfect mouthpiece for right now. And the body of it is the 42SV Sam Victor. I'm going to take it out, and I'm going to put in the Bach 3E. And again, I'm not quite sure if you're actually seeing the 3E on there, but it is there. And I can't do everything on it as I can, my Bob Reeves, but if that got lost and I had to have a backup mouthpiece, this would do at a pinch. Just simple scales. And by the way, my third valve slide is kind of a little bit sluggish, so I'm not going to be popping that out when I should on the D's and D flats, but feel it gives me a pretty decent tone. It's relatively easy to tongue. Centers, articulation is pretty crisp on it. Pointed attacks, that's the tonguing. Accuracy is good up to high C so far. Lip slurring. Glissandos. Nice flexibility. And get around the horn well. How about shakes and lip trills? Shakes. So far, it's passing the test, and I'm putting it through some extreme tests now. Now, this is not going to be my go-to mouthpiece for any kind of range work, but let's just give it a little test. Because I am telling you guys, this is the all-time best, all-around mouthpiece for just about any player on the planet. I'm going to prove to you that I can do a couple things on this that would typically be hard on other mouthpieces, including the 7C. Again, this is the 3E. The start of Maynard Ferguson's Birdland. Hey folks, that was on the Bach 3E trumpet mouthpiece. Not a Shooky 14A 4A, not a Purviance, not a jet tone. Hello? Are you getting the picture here?
That was the Bach 3E. Oh my god! Kicking butt on that bill chase lick. Awesome. A Bach 3E.
Kurt Thompson, and I'm recommending the Bach 3E as the mouthpiece for everybody, the go-to mouthpiece. And if you have the 7C, which probably most of you do, especially you beginners in band and junior high, please get rid of that or put it in a shoebox, put it in your chest of drawers, put it in the closet, and you need to go out and get a real mouthpiece that's going to allow you to do a lot more, play higher, get a better sound, better tonguing, better everything. I'll see you in the next one.
Hey, it's Kurt Thompson here. Welcome to Coffee Chat. And this is a response to the big fight, the big slug out between the Bach 3E trumpet mouthpiece and the average, plain vanilla, most common trumpet mouthpiece around the planet, bar none, no debate, no question, the Bach 7C. So, you know, if you look down in the comments
I didn't memorize everybody's names, so I'm not going to say names, but it seemed like people were interested in this, and they were talking about, hey, Kurt, why not a 7E? Or what about a 5C? Or hey, yeah, Bach trumpet mouthpieces are very sharp with their rims. Why not Dennis Wick? Why not Parduba? Why not Purviance? Why not Giornelli? Is that one? I'm probably not pronouncing it correctly. Why not the wedge mouthpiece? Why not? I mean, on and on and on and on and on. And here's the dealio. This was not a mouthpiece tutorial on what is the best mouthpiece for you, because I haven't worked with you personally and heard you play and heard you do well or falter on certain things. Classical, jazz, high stuff, I haven't heard you do that. So there likely is a best mouthpiece for everyone. In fact, I don't play on a Bach mouthpiece. I play on a really weird hybrid custom Bob Reeves mouthpiece that took quite a while to put together. So, but what I'm saying in this particular video that you just watched, the slug out between the 3E and the 7C, is that with decades of experience and trying a plethora of mouthpieces, and believe me, all the mouthpieces that you guys have mentioned, I've tried. Marsikowitz is another one. There was a Claude Gordon Benj mouthpiece where I've tried them all. And some of them I even played at one point. So, Monet mouthpieces, I've tried those. What's another one? Jet Tone, I've tried those. All the Schilke, the 6A4A. Of course, I went right out and got the Bill Chase 6A4A thinking I was going to scream like Bill Chase when I was in college. No, didn't happen. Of course, the quintessential Schilke 14A4A. I've done it all, folks. And I'm here to tell you there is one mouthpiece that's the best all-around mouthpiece for everyone for the money, and that is the Bach 3E. I'm talking about all around. So I'm talking about your 4th grade, 5th grade, 6th grade, and you're just starting, and you see that 7C, you get rid of it, and you get the Bach 3E. Now, I'm also saying that if I lost my mouthpiece and was in a pinch and needed a mouthpiece for a gig or a wedding or a piccolo thing or a Broadway show or a lead, or God forbid I was doing a Maynard Ferguson tribute or even a couple of solos, I would probably go right to the Bach 3E. It's just a good all-around mouthpiece. You won't be able to beat it in that capacity. I am not recommending a specific mouthpiece for you because I haven't heard you play and I haven't spent time with you. And so the message of this tutorial is there likely is a best perfect mouthpiece for you. And it may not be the Bach 3E. It likely might be something else more specialized, more custom for your chops, your blowing style, and your teeth structure, your jaw, your lips, everything. But what I'm suggesting is the best all-around mouthpiece. So you don't even have to think this one through. This is a no-brainer. You don't even need to put any thought in it. Is the Bach 3E. The Bach 3E trumpet mouthpiece is the best overall mouthpiece for the money for anyone, anywhere, anytime, any place. It's $50. I just mentioned I spent over $300 just on this one mouthpiece. How much money have I spent in my lifetime? $3,000, $4,000, I don't know. I mean, when you factor in shipping cost and all kinds of stuff. I mean, I've had the Prana before. That was $300 or $400. I mean, I spent a lot of money. So to get the best all-around mouthpiece for $50, it's a no-brainer, folks. So I'm Kurt Thompson. That's my follow-up with the fight, the slug out, and the controversy of the Bach 3E versus the Bach 7C. So get your brain out of it, folks. Don't be thinking whether you need a Bach 1.5C or a 10C, or you need to go over to Marsikowitz or Giornelli or whatever. The other, some of the new ones, like the wedge. And I mean, those might be great mouthpieces, but there might be more specific. Just don't think and do. It's the Bach 3E mouthpiece that's the best all-around mouthpiece for the moolah. Hope this settles some of the controversy and the questions that were in the comments below. You don't have to have a doubt or a question or any more comments, because really It's the Bach 3E mouthpiece. See you in the next one. Bye-bye. Hi, welcome to another review by me, Kurt Thompson, TrumpetSizzle.com, and I have here in my hands the amazing, the stupendous, the incredible Kelly Screamer mouthpiece. Kelly Screamer trumpet mouthpiece. If you're a first trumpet player, whether in high school or college, coming up soon, guys. I know for at least college, but maybe even for some high school. Pep band parades outside. I don't know if you're doing Veterans Parade and just Christmas parades. I mean, you're going to probably need to have a secondary mouthpiece that doesn't freeze up in the below 32 degrees of weather that some of you have to endure. I wonder if this is any good, so we're going to try it out. It's a pretty mouthpiece, though, isn't it? I mean, it's definitely attention getting. If you were playing with this in your horn. Okay, I'm a little bit surprised. I didn't even blip the that last little slurp in high C. How is it able to do that? Why is it doing that? I don't know. It's a little bit. I'm impressed on the positive side. For being plastic, the tone is decent. It vibrates very, very well. The slotting is good. I'm actually almost speechless here. I was expecting it to be a piece of junk, and it's $30, so it's a very low price for just any typical mouthpiece. I'm really not believing how well this sounds. Can you tell the difference? I'm just using my phone. I'm not using the venerable, this guy. I don't know if you can see it. That's my Neumann TLM 103. We're not engaging that today. And my new ribbon mic, and I got a review of this one coming out very, very soon from Amazon. I'm not using the nice mic, so I'll have to go back and watch this to see if it actually came out good. So let's see. We'll push the envelope on this a little bit. Well, let me think of an actual lead trumpet chart, not a solo, that I could get. I'm not warmed up for the high notes here, but so there might be a little blips and flips here. But first off, let me just see if I can get upstairs a little bit, and then I'm gonna play a lead trumpet lick, which is kind of what you would buy this mouthpiece for. I was able to push the accelerator down on the double G. That's right on my brake, as you know, folks. So whether or not this is going to be quite accurate, we'll see. But here's a lick from Satin Doll. It's the main Satin Doll that you would think of, and there's several versions. I think there's a bassy version. What is it? I think this is Duke Ellington. So this is the real Satin Doll. So let me think of the lick where the trumpets come in and they have to play high. That's it right there, yeah. Not bad. I mean, I wasn't dead center like I would be on this guy, but hey, I mean, it wasn't bad. Let me do a take two and see if maybe I'm slightly getting used to it, and maybe I can get those G's to come out. It's not bad. I mean, I'm not expecting a plastic mouthpiece to be able to scream out some real lead trumpet parts. This is off the cuff. I don't have any music in front of me. Let's try it again. Wow! Did you hear it got a little bit better as I'm slowly getting used to this Kelly Screamer mouthpiece? That was a real lick that many of you have probably played, and if you haven't, you will likely encounter this piece at some point in your career. I mean, it's a fun piece. The audience loves it. What's another one? Oh gosh, the notes are kind of coming at me in a blur. Um, okay, here we go. Let's see if I can get the right notes. I'm not even sure what the key is. I'm liking it. That was the last shout chorus on All of Me, which is, in this particular arrangement, is my favorite version of play. So, okay, I'm going to give it 2 thumbs up. I mean, I spent a lot of money on a holy grail quest for mouthpieces, and it's not as good as this. I mean, I can tell you, I guess on my quest for the best mouthpiece, that I started back in my late teens until I got this one about 10 years ago. How much money have I spent on mouthpieces? Thousands of dollars? When I say thousands, at least 2,000? Could it be 3,000? Trying and playing different mouthpieces. So to have a mouthpiece, for me, come up very, very close. I mean, this is quite extraordinary. Let's leave it off with that. You're not buying this to play the Hummel. You're not buying this to play fourth trumpet part at the London Philharmonic, right? No, you're not buying that for that. So I'm not going to be going into stuff like that. You know, that's not really my specialty, although I can do some of it. But, you know, watch all my videos. How you can count on your fingers how many demonstrations I've done for stuff like that. You're buying this because you're going to do some commercial stuff with it, or jazz or lead trumpet, maybe some session work. Maybe you have to play outside from time to time, and maybe you're in a performance band that makes money and you play outside. So you're buying it for that reason, or maybe as a backup, maybe in marching band or college marching band. So let me see if I can punch out a couple of notes. You've heard the double G. What about the A? Again, I'm kind of impressing myself, not because of my playing, but because how this mouthpiece is responding to my playing. That was a dead center bullseye double A. Would you agree? I I definitely would. Let's see here. Oh, we can do one more little lick. Now I'm thinking of one that's one of my favorites. You've heard me do this a couple of different times. Okay, I ad-libbed at the end. My money's on the Kelly Screamer mouthpiece. It's a fantastic mouthpiece. It's purplicious, and I think that you're going to be, like me, impressed that it responds this well. So I'll put a link in the description where you can zip to it right away on Amazon. And November now, not a bad time. You might be watching this video in May, but November, you know, when you got a lot of gigs coming up for related to Christmas and the holidays and New Year's stuff, this is not a bad mouthpiece to go and take a look at. But if you're watching this at another time of the year, it's because of the price point, $30, you should just go out and grab it and give it a try. I'm Kurt Thompson, TrumpetSizzle.com. I will catch you in the next one.
I guess not bad for winging it. Hey, it's Kurt Thompson here. Welcome to Trumpet Player Street once again. It's been a while, right? The question, how long does it take to progress, achieve, improve note per note after you hit the high C? How long does it take on average? At some point you probably have asked yourself that question, or maybe an instructor, or maybe a performer that you admire. Hey Tom, I can play a high D now, but dang, I've been stuck on the high D for about a year. How long before I get up to the double C? So this video, we're going to discuss my experience on how long it takes a typical person, once they've gotten to high C, to get to double C.
Please go over to Patreon, become a supporter, support my channel and my work and what I'm doing. I really need your help. Thank you so much. This is Kurt Thompson.
And the answer has many facets and variables. One answer being sometimes never. Another answer almost right away. And then everything in between. So first off, we're not going to talk about what it takes and how long it takes to go from low C to middle C to high C. I'm using high C as a benchmark. You finally have arrived at this note. And to keep it real, baby, Bach 1. Trying to keep it real for you guys, because I know a lot of you guys are in high school or college, and maybe you're still playing a 3C. Ooh, feel sorry for you on that one. Maybe, unless you want to play fourth chair in the Chicago Symphony, hey, play the 3C. Good for you. If that's all you aspire to be as a fourth chair player in some symphony, then play the 3C or do the 1 if you can. This would even be better if you want to play fourth chair in the Chicago Symphony. This is the Bach 1, the largest of all mouthpieces. But for a lot of you guys that do play on all these Bach mouthpieces and these large mouthpieces, because it makes you feel a little bit good about yourself, that you can tell people, well, I can't do this. Well, I can't do that because I play on the big Bach 3C mouthpiece. And you, my friend, play on that Schilke 13A 4A, right? See? That's why you can hit that double C. But wait a minute. Are you watching carefully? Are you watching real carefully what I did? Did you see me swap out this big Bach 1 mouthpiece for a Schilke 13A 4A? Go back and rewind. Watch real quick. Notice there was no switch out. But yet, I went up to double C like it was nothing. It really was nothing. How'd that happen? And how long does it take for you out there watching me to get to where I am right now? Well, as I alluded to in the beginning of this video, it varies. For example, I guess one of the most talked about trumpet players, it seems like it always comes up in videos of mine, especially when I start talking about high, is a guy named Maynard Ferguson. And they're saying, Kurt, can you play his stuff from some movie, whatever it was, The Incredibles? Oh, geez, I don't know. I don't know if I could do that. It'd be real hard. Just stuff like that. It gets a little irritating, but, I did check on this guy, and sources seem to corroborate that when he was in elementary school and he picked up a French horn, I guess he started on French horn, he played a double C. Then he went over to cornet or trumpet, and he was playing double Cs. So from what I've heard, he had to learn how to play a low. So there's one answer. Some people start off right around the double C range, and we're not talking about high C. Let's get this straight, guys. A lot of you confuse the double C with high C.
is not a double C. I don't know why so many of you call that high C note a double C. It is not. The first C that you come to above the treble clef staff is what we refer to, especially people in the know, as high C. The C above that is called a double high C. It's not another high C. It's called double high C. Bam! Can I do it without kissing it off? Of course I can. I can do that double C any which way I want to. I own that note. It's in my back pocket. I've owned it for a long, long, long time. I can do whatever I want with it, however I want, whenever I want. So you got guys like that. You got guys like Maynard Ferguson. How many of you are in 8th grade going to 9th grade? I just had an awesome student graduate recently. My youngest student, you can watch his videos. It's kind of up in the tall part of the order here because it was recent. He started this 16-week course when he was 14 and just turned 15 when he graduated, and was sporting a nice, pretty solid E above high C. There's another guy. Are you recognizing some of these people? This guy. When he was 14, he was playing professional lead trumpet in Montreal. I kid you not, I'm not exaggerating. My guess is at 14 he might have had a better range than I do now. I haven't heard him play at 14, but I bet it was probably close. Here's another guy that was amazing, that had, now he practiced, but it came naturally to him. It came easy to him. You know, we all practice hard. He practiced hard, but it came very easy for him. So at 14 years of age, it's almost sounds like it's made up, right? But he was playing professional lead trumpet at age 14. So these are the exceptions. So now that I've told you about these guys, you kind of need to pull them out of your head so you don't worry about it, okay? Because for the rest of us that aren't blessed, no, blessed. Maynard Ferguson, blessed. Maurice Andre, blessed. It's a good thing these guys didn't do something else besides trumpet, because that's where their real talent is. What if they had got into accounting or become a lawyer? Maybe they would have just been a so-so CPA or a so-so accountant, never knowing that their real true genius and talent was trumpet. Luckily for them and for us, they got into trumpet playing. So these are the exceptions. Almost guaranteed you are not going to be like them. I'm not like them. And if you already are, I doubt we'd be talking right now, and I doubt you'd be listening to me. You're doing something else. So now, if you're a typical person, and what is a typical person? I'm just going to say average. Not above average, not below average, not prodigies and talented people like this. But you're a good player. You got kind of a good noggin on your shoulders. Maybe you take a few lessons. And I'm assuming that maybe let's just say that you're in high school right now. Maybe you're in college. Maybe you're an adult trumpet player that does it for fun. Maybe you make $200,000 a year and you're a trial attorney. But by night you like to get out your trumpet and play in a couple of bands or something like that. But what's kind of gnawing at you is that over and over and over again, you've dibbled and dabbled trying to improve your range. And it's coming slow like molasses. Slow. Like you're moving in slow motion. You do all the things that you've heard people tell you to do. Me too. I told you to do what? Practice on your long tones, which could include some pedal tones. Definitely do some lip slurs, lip flexibilities, some lip trills, right? And to actually try to play high. It's always funny to me when people want to play high, they shy away from it. So when you ask them when's the last time you'd really try to go for a double C, I think last year, it kind of hurts. So last year, yeah, I tried. No, at least you're doing those three things, right? Long tones, pedal tones, which could be part of that, lip slurs and lip flexibilities like lip trills, and actually trying to play high. You have to at least be doing those